Curiosity. What are you so curious about? Everything, Mr. Curiosity.
All right, folks, Joe Snedeker here. Mr. Curiosity is my podcast. And listen, I've been doing this for 3 years. We've had a lot of different types of people. We've had other, quote, rock stars, but I'm a little nervous. I got my true blue man crush going on here. It's Pete Palladino of the Badlees. I mean, Pete.
What's going on, buddy?
Here's the deal. I'm a happily married man, 30 years, but yet, I see you perform. I'm like, that guy I admire. He's energetic. He's youthful. He's rock star. And there's something there. I can't contain it.
That's pretty awesome. I don't know. I stand on stage and it's just like, you're a vessel and, we're very, very lucky that we could still do this and still be good at our jobs. And, that is a gift for us to be able to do that and to share that with people.
Well, come on. If the Rolling Stones and the Who can still be doing this, you guys are youthful compared to what's still out there. But,
our thing was this. It was like, we've been doing this since 1990, right? So
right.
When we got together and we started chatting about playing shows again and doing things, it was like, we're either going to be moving the ball forward and we're going to still be great at our job and can like do this very well and execute at a high level, or like, let's just let it be. I don't want to, none of us wanted to kind of tarnish the things that we've accomplished. And so that was kind of like, those were broad strokes. And then we started playing shows and, that spark was still there. And I think, the first couple of shows that we did were at, down in Hershey, this place called the Inglewood. And
okay.
I got to tell you, they were like some of the best shows of our career. And so that was really super encouraging.
That's how I felt when I saw you recently. Like, these guys are doing the best ever. But we got to back up. We got to go all the way back. First of all, the name, the Badlees. I don't know if you get these questions all the time, but it's a cool name. What's the origin of the name, the Badlees?
So the band existed before I joined the band. They were a band that was named after this fictitious character, Badlee White. Right.
Oh.
So that was, I think Ron was in the band, Jeff was in the band, and they had then done some recording with Brett. Brett had joined the band, and so that they were playing under Badlee White for a while. I met these guys when I was at Susquehanna University. And we were all kind of working. I was doing an internship at Susquehanna Sound, which is, that was the recording studio that everybody was working at. We just formed a friendship over the love of super hot food and music, and just decided, we were going to play some music together. And it kind of was just this organic thing where they were looking for somebody to join them as more of a lead singer.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't think I was very good, but they saw something that I guess I didn't. And so we started playing together. Everybody had called the band the Badlees. And so when I joined the band, it was kind of like, let's change the name to signify there's something a little different going on here. It really doesn't mean anything. They got to call you something, right?
Well, that's great. I mean, that's the most organic, natural band name ever, right? I mean, it's just started on its own. It's sometimes when it's forced and you get 10 people sitting around going, hey, here's my list and this is natural, organic. I love it.
Yeah. We've always told people it's like it files our records close enough to the Beatles and the band that we were always happy with that.
Oh, I love it. Well, you mentioned in your intro right there, Ron. See, here's the deal. There's a guy at WNEP who went to school with Ron.
Oh, nice.
And that's my connection to you. I go, you got to get Pete's email for me. Now, this is no offense to Ron, Brett Alexander. I know the other band members, they're there and they're great musicians and you guys are like glue together. But again, and that term frontman, it comes with a little ego status. I mean, you don't like that. But my point is, I saw you many times. I'm thinking, I got to talk to him. I need this guy. No offense to anybody else. I need this guy. You inspire me.
I think that's very kind. Since the day I was born, and wanted to do this, it's like I have always wanted to be part of a pack and part of a group and part of like, you know, what is so special about the Badlees is that it is a group effort like none other. And I think that that's witnessed in when you take, you know, all of us outside of that, the confines of that. It's still very good. It's just very different, you know. My solo career or like stuff with any of the other guys have done is like, it's just different. There's something magical that happens when the five of us stand in a room and make music together.
And I think a lot of
it would
bands say
not
that.
be, you know, I don't think we'd be sitting here talking if it weren't for, you know, for Brett's songs and for, you know, the rhythm section of Brett and Ron and like the harmonies that Jeff and I create together. So it's like, you know, that is something to be super proud of, you know, and I think I'm certainly the most outgoing guy in the band, I guess, you know, so
you seem that way in the energy. I mean, because I'm told I'm an energetic guy, so maybe it's like-minded people just connect. You know, you're up there. It looks like you're 20 years old. You're moving. I love seeing bands. Collective Soul is one of my favorite bands. They're happy. They're performing. They're putting on a show, and everybody's having a good time. And you contrast that with, and I love the band Wilco too. And I went to see them a while back. And again, I'm not being negative towards them, but they were just stoic, serious musicians. And I'm like, and I, you know, different types of shows for different people, but I want energy. I want positivity. And that's what I get from you and the band. But I want to go back. So where are you a native of? You a Northeastern Central PA guy or no?
I'm not. I grew up in Northern New Jersey.
This is over then. It's over. It's done. You have no connection. I'm out of here. Jersey guy. Come on.
Kind of found Pennsylvania I went to Susquehanna University.
Yeah, you were saying, okay, so interesting.
That's how I met everybody else, right? So I was out in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania doing my thing, and just wandered into this studio as kind of an internship, and, you know, the rest is history, I guess.
So who then in the band are the rest of the guys from the area locally, pretty much? Brett is. I mean,
Ron grew up in McAdoo, I guess that's up there.
Yeah. Brett, Susquehanna County, I think, or Bradford County. Yeah.
Yep. You know, Brett was from Canton, PA.
Yeah.
I think Jeff grew up down south, closer to Harrisburg area, you know, Marysville, somewhere around, you know, down south.
Okay.
Paul's from out there as well. So, yeah, I mean, like all of us kind of found Central PA to be home. And it was a great place to hub out of when we were first doing what we were doing, because we could live there inexpensively and kind of still get to all these metropolitan areas, you know, New York and Philadelphia and out to Pittsburgh and out to Harrisburg, you know, and it was a great place to just do our thing.
Oh, great point. This is now you're taking away from the purpose of this podcast, Northeastern PA. I'm the meteorologist. It's the TV station I'm doing this for. And I got the only guy not from Pennsylvania from the band here.
You wanted to talk to me, dude.
I'm just kidding. No, you're adopted in. You're one of us now. You're one of us.
I've spent a lot of time there. You know, it's like I went to school there when I was 21 years old. Right?
That counts. Then you're in. You're in.
You know, and then I just kind of stayed. So that's why.
No, I'm just kidding. I got you. Here, call me shallow with my music. I'm definitely not. But here are the top Pennsylvania bands, in my opinion, rock bands. The Hooters, Hall & Oates. The Hooters, Hall & Oates, Todd Rundgren.
Oh, yeah.
And the Badlees. That's my list. It's over. Now, I know others are going to say, what about Breaking Ben? What about Fuel? What about Live? But no, these are my top, and I put you right up there with the Hooters, Todd Rundgren, and Hall & Oates. You're right there with me. So that's why
that is an honor. I think, look, Daryl Hall is like one of the best singers of all time.
Yep.
That's a pretty good list to be on. So thank you.
Excellent. All right. So Pennsylvania Hall of Fame, Central PA. What does that thing mean? That happened a few years ago, right? Your guys are inducted. What does that even mean?
It does. You know what? Wonderful gentleman down towards Harrisburg, put together this Central PA Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or Music Hall of Fame. And, who knew, right? It's nice to get a phone call and say, hey, you guys have been inducted. We'd like to induct you into this Hall of Fame. And it was like, wow, I think we were all floored by the honor and just even being considered.
Okay.
It's like being in a band is very insular. So, you're in it, so you don't really realize how it affects those around you. And even when, even at like, when we were touring and, and on MTV and VH1, it's just like you're still in this bubble, you still exist in this vacuum. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult to kind of have any sort of, view of what really is going on. There's no point of reference because you're just surrounded by your team. So when you see that the things that you've done connect to people, and it has some sort of lasting effect, that always is humbling. And so it was awesome honor, awesome honor.
I love it. All right. So let's go back and do a little history of you guys. That's what I'd like to do, and starting in 1990. But
Yeah.
for anyone out there who is listening and they're like, I heard of the Badlees. What's it like? Maybe you were in your own world and you didn't really dive deep in the 90s and beyond. You guys are called roots rock or Americana. I mean, I can throw you in with bands like the Wallflowers, Old 97, Cracker, Paul Westerberg, Hootie and the Blowfish. The list goes on. Tom Petty, right? Don't you think you guys are all like, it's my favorite genre. It's sing along.
Yeah.
It's got a good up vibe to it. It's just great stuff. It's radio friendly but edgy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sound of the five of us, and so I don't think any of us sat down and said we're only going to write these kinds of songs. We're only going to perform these kinds of songs. I think it just organically fell into that niche by the fact that we use a lot of traditional acoustic instruments. There's still a lot of electric guitars and all sorts of stuff, but
Yep.
Certainly the acoustic and the electric guitar, just the layering of all that stuff on some of our earlier records just kind of put you there. I think we've certainly tried over the course of the last 30 years to push what that meant and what the Badlees were sonically.
Oh, it definitely evolved. It definitely evolved. I can see it from album to album. That's what I got to ask you about. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's we just want to create art that is satisfying for us to make. That we feel has some staying power and that can stand up against some of those guys that are our heroes and our girls that are heroes. It's like, you talk about Tom Petty. It's like, there's a band, that we look up to. And it's just like, if you could model your career after somebody, it would certainly be those guys. They've been able to create not only, music that I think is really important and honest and, has staying power, but it's just like was also very radio friendly and you can sing along to it.
Exactly.
I think that's the whole thing. For us, it's like you want people sing your songs. What I mean? There's nothing wrong with somebody being able to hum along to your song after hearing it one time.
But you don't want to be a sellout and a fake either. So I know it's an impossible battle.
Sellout and fake. I mean, I think that that is a bit of a moving target. What is when people sell a lot of records, it's like instantly they're labeled a sellout. It's like, but it connects to a lot of people. And it's like, who knows? For us, it's like if we feel like we were doing something that was dishonest to our core values and the things that were important to us, then of course, if it wound up selling, I think that we would feel like that was a shallow victory. But any of the things that we put on records that we feel strongly about, that connected with people, that's an honest win, and that feels good.
Shallow victory. I love it. Perfect. I'll say something like Foreigner, their first 3-4 albums, outstanding. And then they started, I think, pandering with the love ballads and it became insincere and it went off a cliff, in my opinion. But
when you're chasing, I think when you start chasing, whatever it be, the dollar signs or, things that you feel, when you start chasing radio, I think that that's a losing battle, because radio is super fickle and, it's nice. Like when I look at Petty, right? Like Tom Petty has just created all these songs that radio kind of chased him.
That's a classic example. You're right. Yes.
And so that's what we always tried to do, and for us, it was like, we were never the popular kids and like, the cool kids. It's like, we were just trying to create, make these records that we felt, could stand on their own, that were kind of timeless, you know, and even going back and like listening to a bunch of these songs over the past, you know, couple years for all of us to try to relearn and, you know, get back in that groove. I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know if this comes as a surprise to you. I don't listen to a lot of our music, you know, but dude, I gotta tell you, I was like really proud of the stuff that we've done. And like, there are some of those things that I think I would put on now and be like, that stands the test of time.
Yes.
Good job. Good job.
Yes. And that's what I find frustrating for you guys. If you go up to 100 random people of various age and say, hey, you ever hear of Tom Petty? Yes. You ever hear of John Cougar Mellencamp? Yes. You ever hear of the Wallflowers? Yes. But if you say the Badlees, now it's shrinking down. And I don't mean to be, you know, feelings hurting anywhere here, but I'm just saying it's the truth.
Of course.
But yet you are, and you're going to deny this, but you guys, the Badlees, stand with all of those artists I just mentioned with your song catalog. And I mean that. And that's what bothers me.
You know, it's like you can't control how people consume music. You can't control what connects to people.
It's unfair.
Unfair. You know,
like life, right?
Yeah, it's like, look, I think that, you know, it's a very frivolous conversation we're allowed to have right now. It's just like, what's fair in life? But, you know, for us, once it leaves our hands, you know, like what happens to it out there in the universe is like out of our control. And it's just like, you can pine over it and you can get frustrated, or you can just say, you know what, I'm proud of, you know, the sonics there. I'm proud of the lyrics. I'm proud of the recording. I'm proud of the performance. Anything else is just kind of up to the universe.
I guess, but there's got to be a part of you thinking, yeah, I'd like to have 3 homes and 750 million in the bank. I mean, there's that's just.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to look. The music business, I think, if you go into the music business trying to make $1 million, you know, you're eternally going to be frustrated.
Except for a few.
It's like, you know, you have to be. Here's the way I view it, right? Music business is like this. You have to be ready. You've got to be good at your job. You have to have great songs. You've got to be great performers. And then you have to get struck by lightning. So
I agree. Yeah. It's all chance. That last part is chance.
Yeah. All that stuff is just out of our control. And so the things that are within our control, you know, we try to be really good at. And that's, I think that, you know, if you tile that back to the way that we always approach to what we wanted to do, that's why, you know, these guys created their own recording studio and became really good producers and became, you know, your own destiny. Right, we didn't want to have to rely on anyone else to create and to do the things that we do, to make records and put records out, to tour. We kind of, from very early on, we were like, we are going to circle our wagons and make sure that we can do this no matter whether we have a record deal, whether we don't have a record deal, whether this person likes us, we're still going to be able to do what we do. And that was really important to us. And I think that's why we're still able to make music now.
And you're kind of referring to Saturation Acres, correct? Like your own studio, your own
Brett and Paul started a recording, like a production company studio called Saturation Acres a while ago. And both those guys are awesome producers and, you know, have worked with, you know, they're the guys that did the first Breaking Benjamin record. You know, and I've worked with like a ton of other wonderful artists throughout Northeast PA, and you know, I've kind of carved out this little niche for themselves of like, you know, production guys, you know, and so now Paul has a studio, you know, down in Northumberland, which is coincidentally the studio that we all met in.
Right.
Susquehanna Sound. You know, and he's doing some wonderful stuff down there, and that's kind of where we hub out of and rehearse out of. And so, you know, it's nice to be able to just, we decided to do a record. It's not like, you know, you need to book studio time anywhere. It's just like basically you go and you do a record. And that was the great thing.
Let's go to our own studio and let's start this, right? I love it.
Yeah, like when Brett and Paul had Saturation Acres, you know, if the mood strikes you, you just do records and you just record stuff and you create art.
I love it. Well, let's take a little roll on that roller coaster up and down. Not that it's down, but, you know, I guess the arc. 1990, the first album, It Ain't For You. I admit it's not, it's the beginnings, you know, it's not one of my go-to Badlees recordings.
You know, you gotta, you got to flex and see what works.
Yep.
That is like, I think I listen to that and it's like, you cringe a little bit because so It Ain't For You, I was probably 21, 22.
Okay.
It's like, I don't, yeah, it was a good practice run at like, making records. And that was the first time that like, I had really made a serious record, done any recordings in like serious studios. And so, yeah, I think it was a fine first step.
I want to, that you just reminded me now. So with your vocal, those golden pipes of yours, did you have that past, or just one of those things you discovered through your teenage years? Do you come from a genetic background of singers and sound?
No, I mean, the fact that I can sing at all, it was completely just manifested when I first started playing music in high school. All my high school bands, I was the drummer, and so that was what I first did. And we could never find a singer, and so finally I was like, you know what? It's easier to find a drummer than it is a singer. I'm just going to be the singer. And and that was horrible. It was like, I was trying to be Bono and trying to be Robin Zander from Cheap Trick. I know, look at that shirt. That's awesome. And so I wasn't good, but I think the intent was there. And so you just keep, I just kept working on that. And, kudos to Brett, because I think as we got into the Badlees, he was very good at directing me and coaching me how to be better at my job, how to be a better singer. And I took a lot of vocal lessons, and I think it's not until later records that I think that I would be proud to say, okay, that's what I do. That's a great representation of what I do.
That's hard to believe because it seems so natural. I am not patronizing you. The voice to me is one of the top 10 rocker voices of all time. Have you ever been it's like a Darius Rucker, maybe? Do you ever hear that before? It has a little bit of that in there from who?
Yeah, because I think we both have baritone
yeah,
voices.
okay. Right.
That, I listened to those early records and all I hear is like, I was really trying to find my way.
Yeah, I guess, right.
Out, I didn't really have a strong identity on those early recordings of who I was, as a singer, as a vocalist. So, that's why I cringe. It's just a personal cringe.
Everybody cringes at their past.
Yeah, I love the fact that they're there, because it's like, how many people do you know have a great snapshot of where they were at 21 years old, 22 years old? It's like, that's pretty awesome. And I think later records, certainly, when we did Up There Down Here, I think that was, I'm proud of some moments on that record. And like, Renew, I really think was great.
Well, I was going to say, let's skip to 92, Diamonds in the Coal. Like a Rembrandt is an awesome song.
Yeah, that was great. I think Brett started to hit his stride in songwriting there, and really got to, stretch a bit production wise in the studio. There's some good stuff.
There's some great stuff.
Went back and listened to that. And
Spending My Inheritance, great. I mean, there's great stuff there.
So we are in the process of I can't say we, Paul and Brett mostly, I think those guys are working on taking that record apart, remixing it, remastering it.
Oh, I love it.
So they've got these tracks isolated, and Paul brought them up at the studio, and just, the performance is there. It's like, it sounds great. And that was us just creating and just doing our thing and finding out who we were as a band.
Well, let's talk. Could I talk about Brett behind his back? Or you don't want to do that? He's going to listen. I'm just kidding. No, he seems to me like this brooding, quiet guy. And, when I see him on stage, I'm hearing he's the engineer. I'm hearing he's the songwriter. I'm hearing he's all that. Is he one of those guys that comes up with the ideas, comes up with the lyrics, but doesn't want to be the guy to set them on fire? Or, you know what I mean?
I think that, like, within the confines of the Badlees, like what the Badlees had become was, Brett's songs being fronted and sung by myself and Jeff, and like this awesome rhythm section and like a rock solid band with Brett and Paul, you know, and Ron back there. You know, I listen to Brett's songs, and I got to tell you, like, this is no BS. It's like I think Brett is one of the best songwriters that I've ever heard.
I agree.
You know, those songs, like, you know, it's very daunting because I'm also a songwriter, and you know, and with my solo stuff, it was like, you know, putting my stuff up against Brett's stuff, I was like, well, that's a piece of crap. That's a piece of crap, you know. So it was very difficult. And so when I go back and I listen to some of those songs, and I'm like, you know, those lyrics, it's just, there's some real brilliant stuff, and really proud to be associated with that. So, you know, Brett is the guy that is in his head, that is making sure that before it comes out of his mouth, it's fully formed, you know. And so, and that is also the way I think he feels about songs. And so, you know, he's crafting and wants to make sure that it is brilliant before he kind of sets it out there for people to see and to be judged. You
so
know,
there's
and
a strategy, there's a complexity, there's a perfection that he wants.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, Brett is 100% artist, and is all of that. And so I think that, you know, that is, the Badlees have certainly been richer for having, you know, Brett as the primary songwriter, and you know, the guy that was kind of leading the charge. Because sometimes I think the rest of us, I can speak for myself, like sometimes I think I lost our way a little bit and couldn't see the forest for the trees when, you know, when it was 1995 and we were in the middle of record deal craziness, and, you know, and touring and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, you know, Brett not being, you know, that the front guy was able to kind of, you know, zoom back and say, okay, I think this is what's best. You know, I think that, you know, and steer the ship a little bit.
Well, you mentioned 95. Here comes the magnum opus, River Songs. I mean, come on. So what was the big turning point? What made that so magical?
It was a moment, you know. What made it magical? I don't know. You know, we had done this record. You know, when we were making records and starting to do our thing, you know, like I said, we were all very self-contained.
Okay.
Rehearsing every other day, you know, sometimes, you know, 4 times a week, and then playing, you know, 4 or 5 days a week. We just got in it, and we were like, we got to be, you know, really good live band, and we were just hitting our stride, I think, with some of those songs. We did this record down in Harrisburg at a place called the Green Room.
Was that a change?
It was. Yeah, it was a change. I can't remember exactly why we chose the Green Room. You know, we had known gentleman Bob, who had owned the Green Room for quite some time. You know, wonderful people. They had this awesome desk down there that just sounded great, and the recordings that they had done there sounded really good. And so we were able to get in there and just like do our thing. You know, why was it lightning in a bottle? I don't know. It just wound up being a great snapshot of a moment of a band kind of, you know, approaching, just being really good at what they do.
Angelina Coming Home, Fear of Falling, I Like You Better When You Hated Yourself. So this all explodes. Do I have your history right? Is this when you become more national, or was it even before?
Yeah, I think we had always come from the, you know, the roadmap of, we're going to do our records, we're going to sell our own records, and we are going to go out there and get radio airplay and build this thing to a point where people can't ignore us anymore. And by people, I mean record companies.
Okay.
Because at the time, you know, there was no really breaking into a national, you know, a national format without being on a major label.
Yeah, but up until then, weren't you just touring mainly local, or I have it wrong? Like,
yeah, we were touring regionally.
Regionally, okay.
You know, but to kind of break out of that, you needed the support of a major label. And so we were just going to do things ourselves and get it to the point where nobody could ignore us anymore.
And that is 95, correct?
Correct. And so we put out River Songs by ourselves. Radio airplay, touring, selling out shows, selling a bunch of records, and all of a sudden, you know, you get the attention of people. And one of our friends, Fred Shade, who was had done radio promo for A&M.
All right.
You know, was awesome. Giant fan of the band, and helped us get on a lot of radio stations. You know, and I think when you start taking ads away from some of the major labels, where a radio station's not gonna add one of their songs because they're adding this local band from Selinsgrove, all of a sudden, you know, that starts to get people's attention.
Or see the dirty, dark side that I rather not know. Very interesting, right?
Out there. So
if you have Columbia Records or such, they're going to push. Where if you're not on with them, there's no push. You got to push yourself. And now you're pushing against a force that's monolith.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and so we were just, I think people saw something in those songs that, you know, saw how it connected to the audience, the radio audience, saw how it connected to people in the clubs. And, you know, we were just doing our thing. Again, very insulated, you know, because you're in it. It's like, okay, great. When we play these songs and all of a sudden, you know, the clubs are playing are getting bigger and there's a line at the door. And like, you know, that was always the goal. So when it starts to happen, you're like, oh shit, great. You know,
you felt it. I mean, you definitely felt this surge with that album. You're like, something's going. This is it. And it happened
like
quick. Was it weeks, months? I mean,
no, it was very gradual. It was gradual up until the point that, you know, the major labels started sniffing around, and then that fire of, you know, perception is kind of, you know, larger than life. And so, you know, I think we did a ton of showcases for Columbia, for A&M, for Atlantic. And so finally, you know, we reached a deal with, it was Polygram, Polydor, Atlantic, Polydor, A&M. We were on Atlas Records, which was a subsidiary of A&M Records, owned by Poly. You know, and so they were great people. They flew us out to LA. We met everybody out there, and they did their whole dog and pony show, and just, you know, felt like we were in a good spot with them. And so they liked our record so much that, you know, they just decided we don't really want to change anything. We're going to maybe mess with the order of songs, just to, you know, swap a couple songs around, and literally slap their name on it, put it out, original artwork, original, you know, everything beyond just doing that. We had some remixes done by Bob Clear Mountain, and, you know, we were off to the races.
I mean, you're in your 20s. You're being flown out to California, music being played across the nation. Is this when you're touring with Bob Seger, Jimmy Page, Gin Blossoms? This is when all that's happening?
This is when all that's happening, yeah.
I mean, I think it's awesome. Well, give me some stories. What's that like? I mean,
it was like, you know, you're just, every day was hopefully a progression of getting further along in your career goals than the day before. And so, you know, was there any day where you sat there and, you know, stood up and said, we're here? You're never there.
You're never there. You're in the whirlwind of it.
You're always just chasing what's next, you know? And so, I'm not going to lie, like, you know, one of our first opening gigs after we signed with, you know, our booking agent, was he got us to open up for Page and Plant in Buffalo, New York. And that was just like, you know, that was daunting. That was pretty awesome.
So you meet Jimmy Page, nice guy. Did he appreciate you guys? What's that like?
No, we didn't meet anybody. It was like,
you didn't even meet the what?
No, it's like, you know, those guys, it was awesome. They zoom up in a limo, they hop out, they play their show, they get back in the limo, and they're gone. You know?
Jerks.
You know? No, they're awesome.
No, I'm just kidding. But
it was great. What a great experience! Like, to go up there and start to play, you know, these arenas and these big rooms, and then touring with, you know, with Bob Seger and Greg Allman, and I got to sing with Greg Allman, you know, which was like, you know, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. How did that happen? At the same, like on the same.
Yeah, we were on the
River Songs band. He came out.
We were on the River Songs tour, and so, and I remember Phil Ernst, who was our booking agent at the time, you know, called us up and said, "Look, Greg Allman would like to take you guys out as his opening act." And I remember Brett and I went for a walk that night, and.
But may I ask, how does that happen? Who decides that? Does the band say, I know this new upcoming band, let's get them, or their agent or the record company? How does one choose an opening act? How does that happen?
Well, I think in that situation, it was, Phil was very friendly with, with his manager, with Greg Allman's manager, and
Oh, okay.
got him
So,
the record,
gotcha.
and so like, as Brett and I were chatting, it's like, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And he's like, I remember Brett saying to me, it seems pretty evident that like Greg Allman would have had to at least listen to this stuff and say, yes, I like it. So
Yeah,
it's like, it's pretty cool to know that like Greg Allman is listening to your stuff. So we get to go out and we did like, I think it was like a couple months with Greg Allman, which was like awesome, So Greg Allman slurs a lot, right? So when he speaks, always like,
he could slur. He's Greg Allman.
Every night, and we are like in our glory. We're just like meeting one of our heroes and getting to hang out with him every night. He's in the dressing room and we're hanging out. So Greg Allman, the first night, we're talking about like he wants to jam with us. And so we're just like, absolutely 100%. And this was at like the tour opened in New Orleans. We were at the House of Blues in New Orleans.
Okay.
And I remember standing back there and just being like, chatting with Greg and, like you're trying to find some common ground to talk about, and so he's like, you can't really understand what Greg Allman's saying. So he's just like, we're always waiting. Every night we'd be waiting for him to ask us, is tonight the night he's going to ask us to get up on stage? So, he'd be like, ham. Like, did he just say ham or did he say jam? What is this? Well, one night we're hanging out and he's like, what do you think? We play Stormy Monday. You want to sing? And I was like, absolutely, dude. Let's do it.
Oh, I love it.
He's like, all right, I'll sing the first verse, you sing second verse, and then we'll trade on the third verse. And I'm like, dynamite, awesome. So he leaves, and I'm like, does anybody know Stormy Monday? Right? Thank God our A&R guy had gotten us a box set, Allman Brothers box set, which just happened to be in our van. Dude, I ran down to the van. I put on Stormy Monday. I listened to it about 15 times. I wrote the lyrics on my hand. And I remember we were in Atlanta, and I go out, and it's just like, it's a little bit of a blur because my adrenaline is just going, and I just, you're looking at my hand, and it was pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I guess you can't like just Google it or YouTube it, right? There's nothing like that then, right? Mid-90s, barely the internet started.
No, we didn't have that. But it was so awesome. You walk off stage and there's like, guys from Black Crowes like that were coming up on after me, and there were some incredibly surreal moments in our career that like, you realize all these people are just people.
Yeah,
like,
that's everybody on the planet. Presidents, clergy, moms, sisters, brothers, grandfathers.
Yeah.
We're all just people. That's what everyone forgets, I think, at times. The halo effect, I think psychologists call that, right?
Right.
Put a halo on some, just we're all people. We all bleed the same color. What about the Angelina coming home then? Who is Angelina and where was she coming home from? And who wrote that beauty?
So that was a song that was co-written between Brett and our co-writer, Mike Nadok.
Okay.
Mike is from up that way. He is from Hazleton.
Oh.
And Mike is 100% just pure, art as well. And just like writes these awesome lyrics. And so him and Brett kind of got back and forth and they were writing together. And so Angeline was a song that Mike had put together that Brett kind of translated and turned into, what it became. Mike wrote that song about a woman he knew that was kind of had some substance abuse problems and was coming, Angelina's coming home is kind of like she's coming back from recovery.
Oh, interesting.
And that's one of those things we never wanted to like necessarily spell out all these meanings behind songs because people are going to create their own meanings and draw their own lines there.
Metaphor, baby, metaphor.
Yeah. And so, who knew? I listened to songs throughout our entire career and like, why did that song strike a chord more than another song. I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's like that's the thing that's out of your control. It's like I'm proud of that song, and it opened a lot of doors for us.
Sure did. Well, I think, it's radio friendly, but it has integrity. It's sing along. It's got a nice little structure to it. It's got it all. It's a classic pop gem. Beautiful. Right up there with the greats. I love it. All right. I liked you better when you hated yourself, or however that one goes. I mean, what?
Yeah.
That's an odd song, but it's wonderful.
That's a great song. That's one of Brett's tongue-in-cheek
For some reason, everybody can relate to that in an odd way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's just like I listened to that song, and even the first time I read those lyrics, I was like, this is really great. And even now, I think that's certainly a moment at our shows where it's a great sing-along and kind of people can connect to that. At the end of the day, right? Like we're playing songs, and we're like, we're out there, doing our thing. So it's nice to not take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, for me, a big Badlees chord hits in 2002, I believe, with Renew. To me, that album, if you're putting all your albums up on Mount Rushmore, that's up there with River Songs to me. Renew, I love. I
agree.
Renew.
I think that is, as far as, songs, as far as performance, I am really proud of moments on that. There's moments there's a song called See Me as a Picture that I think are just, if I had to,
I love it.
Right. If I had to say to somebody, if they asked me, what is it that you do? I would play them that song and say, that's what I do. That's a great picture of, I think, what the band is. Man. Great songwriting, awesome performance. Just like the lyrics are really wonderful. I don't know. I just feel like that's a great representation of us.
I agree. That's a great album. And Renew is just an excellent song. Radio at Night. Here Comes Love is Rain. Another album I love. So I think you guys were powering right through the late 90s into the new millennium, into the 2000s. Things are going good, but did the whole national acclaim, MTV, touring with Greg Allman, was that already, or am I superimposing things on you? Was that already in decline now by the late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, I think, we had done River Songs, right? While we were on Atlas A&M, we then did a record called Up There Down Here, right? And this was our first record that we were kind of doing under that umbrella. Got to record, at Ocean Way and a bunch of at Sound City, and like a bunch of these awesome places out in California, as well as up in Bearsville studios in New York.
Todd Rundgren's place.
Birthplace to the band. I mean, like that was like, us, encapsulated. So, and at that point, we had the record done. Now, Universal swoops in and buys, Polygram is sold. They basically just close down all of their release schedule, right? So nobody could tour. You couldn't tour because you didn't have a record to tour behind. There was no tour support. This was like 90, 98, 99, somewhere around there. And we were just kind of like put on pause, which for, a rock band that had been moving so quickly when we were on our own.
Yes.
Was incredibly frustrating because we were just like, doing records, touring. And all of a sudden it was like we had a record done that we were super proud of, couldn't go do anything behind it. And that's when we started just doing, we're like, you know what? Other people have solo interests. Other people wanted to do, other things. It wasn't a great time to be tied to a major label contract.
Oh, I see.
It just was it was a really unproductive time, and so we spent a lot of time trying to get out of that deal just so we could do our thing again.
So what is everybody doing in their alternate life? You can't just be, or can you be, at least then, I'm not talking about now, in a band, or can you? Is everyone have their own? I know these guys are doing producing too, Brett and others, engineering, but what are you doing at the time? Could you make a living? You're in your 20s, early 30s. I don't know. How does that all work? Do you make tons of money on this? I don't know. I'm asking.
No. I mean, I think, look, even back then, blue collar artists like ourselves were just like, you got to go work and you got to tour and you got to go do your thing. I was living in Philadelphia at the time when we were trying to get out of our deal.
Okay.
We couldn't tour. We weren't really playing even shows, locally, because we really didn't, you want something to create excitement.
All right.
And that's when I started to get into the restaurant business. I was like, if we're not going to tour, I need a job to just like kind of, hold us over to the point that we get to whatever's next. And that's how I started working for the folks that I'm working with now. And just like I fell in love with the restaurant business. And I've always loved food and beverage. I've always loved, been a wine snob. So it was kind of like an easy fit. And it also allowed freedom to kind of go and do, when we would play and we would tour. And then all of a sudden, we had this record done called Up There Down Here. One of the gentlemen that we worked with at A&M, his name is John Rotella. John went to work with Miles Copeland at his label, which was called Arc 21. Miles Copeland managed Sting and,
okay.
Stuart Copeland's brother. So they wanted to take that record that we had for A&M, and they basically bought that record from A&M and put that out on Arc 21. So all of a sudden it was like, oh, great. Our record, that we worked so hard on is finally going to see the light of day. There wasn't a whole lot of support there, but we were able to still get out and kind of tour and do our thing.
And I would say not as, in my opinion, I know it's very subjective, not as rich with the songs as River songs. So there's definitely a noticeable difference, at least in my judgment, on that album.
I think there were some, it was an odd time. It was like, there's a tremendous amount of pressure, doing your sophomore record on a major label, this was, still
post grunge world, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was like you're trying to figure out where you fit. Rap rock was just starting to come up and just be a thing. We were just trying to create great songs, great recordings, and just do our thing. I think that, my vision of that record and my memory of that record, I think, is colored by, it wasn't a great time to be us at that point. You know what I mean? Like getting out of a major label deal.
Yeah. So the momentum of the Badlees is slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, it was kind of just like you just let all the air out of the balloon, and it just was like, And,
Speaking of a kind of negative tune on that is Thinking in Ways About Death. Who wrote that, and who's singing about planning their funeral? I mean, that's a great song.
Amazing song. I think that's one of Mike's songs with Brett.
Oh, that's another great one.
We put that one together. Even now, I listen to that, and we played that song not too long ago.
It's awesome. It's a happy, depressing song.
Yeah. Songs, I think, for Brett, he can speak more to this than I, but I think they became a little bit more introspective. I feel that there's a weight when I listen to that. I feel like there's a weight on those songs, like a heaviness over all that. And that could just be me projecting, the way I was feeling at the time on those songs. It wasn't light and airy. Let's just say that.
No, for sure. But that's going back to you. I see you as the guy when I listen to Renew, Radio at Night, Like a Rembrandt, Angelina. These songs they uplift me. I feel the energy. That's the Badlees that I like. And I know a lot of folks who disagree with me, and they say, no, they like the bluesy part of the Badlees. And that's where I don't. And you can't please everybody. I get that. But I don't like.
Yeah, you're not going to please everybody. It's right. But that's why the Badlees work, right?
Okay,
I've always been about, to me, it's about the lift, right? I grew up wanting to be Bono and wanting to be Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, right?
Yes,
so,
yes.
That is, and even like in my solo career now, it's like the songs are about the lift, right? They're about.
This is what I look for.
Yeah, and it's like that is not necessarily, that doesn't work 100% of the time. What I mean? Like that's not. And I still believe that there's great art in some of our material there that doesn't necessarily have that, like super obvious launch.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that is why, that is the yin and the yang, that is the Badlees, right? So it's like, and that is why it's different. And it's kind of great because, in any of our solo careers, I don't think people want to see a watered down version of the Badlees. We've been able to make it different enough, my solo stuff and Brett's solo stuff and like the stuff that Paul does and Jeff does, way different than what we do within the confines of the Badlees.
And I had your solo stuff, and I'm going to beg you to put it on Spotify, because like the rest of the world, no one plays CDs or albums anymore. All my Pete Palladino CDs I can't listen to them. I don't have a CD player. So I need you to put them on Spotify or iTunes. Could you do that?
It's all coming. It's all
coming. Good.
Yeah, I have like new stuff. Kind of created this thing called the Circa 68.
You don't have to tell me about that. I'm well aware of it and I love it. And I want to hear more of the man I was before. It's a great song, Circa 68. You got to listen to this. But that's very Badlees like to me.
Yeah, I think parts of it. Look, I'm still the singer.
Yeah, that's right.
But like, I don't know. Going back to where we were, in the history of the band, it's just like, no, I don't think all of us could make just a hard living just by sitting around waiting to be the Badlees again. So everybody started to play and start to do things. I'm in the restaurant business, and I know Ron was substitute teaching and doing, like, we're all doing different things kind of as placeholders, just like biding our time, treading water until we can kind of get back to do what we were doing again. So I don't know if that kind of came full circle. It was a long-winded answer.
It's always a surprise for a regular Joe like me to hear of his superstar rock idols have regular jobs. I think it was one of the Bouchard brothers from Blue Oyster Cult. I heard he was a teacher somewhere in New York. I'm like, what? Blue Oyster Cult? He's a teacher? And members of 10cc, another band I really like, they're just having regular lives. I see you guys, once you put out albums and once I know your songs, you're elevated to God status for me, and then you can't do regular work. That's how my brain thinks. And I know that's wrong.
Well, the perception is way different than the reality of it. I mean, like,
right.
The economics fell out of the bottom of, the music business, and that is kind of why happy accidents, happen. Like I wound up in the restaurant business, so the value, was lost on, like, we spent all our time and all our energy making this thing called a record, right? And that was where the value was. You then took that out and you sold your wares, you sold your record, and that you got behind it. Now there's no value in the actual record anymore. That is basically just your calling card so that people, come to your shows and people do your thing. So it just flipped, and it's just like, we just had to figure out a different way to do things that made it make sense. So for a band to really make a living, now it's like you're on the road, and you're on the road 300 days a year, and you're doing your thing.
And that's gotta suck.
It doesn't suck when you're 21.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say at a certain age, it's
when you're 35 and like beyond. It's like, being on the road is, it's not the best. It's like you spend 23 hours a day getting to the 1 hour a day when you can actually do what you love. And that's like, it's not really super productive. I think, Brett has even said this. I think the most unproductive years of our lives as a band were when we were on a major label.
Oh man.
It's because you're just like, you can't do anything. It's like you're trying to move forward in mud.
But speaking for you or Brett, or maybe just your perspective on this, especially when you were in your 20s and 30s, but still now, because I've seen you just months ago in Northumberland, and the crowd loves you. You're a rock star. Back when you were just starting out, I mean, women throwing themselves at you. Could I touch you? Could you give me an autograph, pictures with you? And then 5 hours later, you're planning the food for a banquet or something. I mean, does that still play on your brain, or how does that work? I don't know. Am I silly for me to ask?
No, it's all being creative. Like, what I love about the restaurant business is it's entertainment, just like, playing a show. Obviously, I think in my restaurants, nobody is throwing a piece of clothing at me. But
do they know your alternate life? They know that.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, the internet is a powerful thing, and like people find things. Look, tomorrow night I'm playing a show with my band, the Circa 68, down here. You know, so
let me write this down. Could I come?
Yeah, come on down, dude. I'm playing. It's down here in Long Beach Island.
Do I search Circa 68 online?
Yeah, it's at a place called Bird and Betty's, which is right here in LBI.
I seriously might stop down. I might stop down.
You come down. You see me.
I love it. And will it be a full show? Like, because as far as I know, there's only two Circa 68 songs out, correct?
Yeah, that's all I put out for that. But I mean, like, we'll probably play for 2 hours. It's like, I've got a tremendous amount of solo material that I just haven't put out yet.
Badly stuff too, a little mix in, or not really?
I'll probably play Angeline and maybe Fear.
Oh, this is excellent. This is excellent.
That are, that know the Badlees as well. But we always try to keep it I want to keep it very separate.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like, I have a wife, I have a daughter, and we all have families. And it's like, so, this is all, who I am in the Badlees is part of, this bigger picture as always. Right. And it's like, so, yes, you get to see the guy that stands on stage and does his thing. I don't think that's 100% of who any of us are. It's just like
showbiz.
Yeah. I mean, I love business. And so, when we were, and I learned all of it from running the Badlees as we all did as a business, right? We were very smart and tried to make good decisions and tried to understand all the deals that we did. Some didn't work out so well and we made a lot of mistakes, but you try to not make the same mistakes twice. So translate that to being in the restaurant business. It's like, I understand how the economics of it work. And so hopefully, you can kind of, those two worlds share, the economics of things, even now when we're talking about doing shows and doing like little mini tours and records, it's like, everybody understands that.
How true. So to finish up here, you have, am I correct? The next Badlees show is this month, September 25th, 7 p.m., XL Live in Harrisburg, which is an awesome venue. I've seen many bands there.
Yeah.
It's great. The sound is great. You can move right up to the band. I hate shows. Am I alone in this? When you sit in the theater and you're like this. Yeah, I hate that. When I go to the band, I want to be standing. I want the crowd to be swaying with me. I want to work my way up and back. I want to be energized by you. And this is where you can do all that.
Yeah, I think when we started playing bigger shows and we were doing like festival dates and like some arena dates, it was very daunting to us to have the audience, 25 feet away. And it was like, there was no, the live show for me has always been about that exchange.
It's like a volleyball game. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, you were there to experience something together. And it took a hot minute to figure out how to do that within the confines of, the distance. But yeah, I want to see the people. I want to feel the people. I want to feel the energy. That's what live shows are about.
I hear you, Brandon. I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, Pete, so we have that show. So we have the show coming up in Harrisburg. Anything in that people can look forward to? We'll mention this before we wrap it up in the future, into the fall. I heard you're at Jim Thorpe. Is that correct?
We are doing a show, Jim Thorpe at the Opera House there. That's going to be awesome. Fun thing, I don't know if we've even announced it, so I can announce it now. At the XL Live show, we're going to do river songs from start to finish.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. I love when bands do that. So you get your masterpieces and you play the whole thing. What's there not to love there? And other songs too, right? You're not just doing that.
No, that'll be part of our set.
Oh, that's excellent. All right, the Badlees, where can we find you? If you want to, all social media, you guys are plastered all over it.
Yeah, hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up, either, personal or Badlees or whatever. Badlees.com as well is where you can find all the stuff. But we're excited to kind of get this thing rolling. We're working on a new record right now. And so that's great. The guys have been working diligently in the studio over the summer while I've been super busy with my restaurants. And I'm excited. I'm excited to share some new music with some people and just continue moving this ball forward.
Has it been almost 10 years? Is it 2013? I think the last album. Am I wrong? The double live, Chasing the Brand New.
Yeah, if that was in 2013, yeah, it's not.
I can't believe that. I still see that as like a new album. You know what? This aging process kills me. And that's 10 years ago, 9 years ago. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
And what about Circa 68? Come on. Anything?
I have more stuff like kind of in the can, ready to go. And it's like, I always wanted to create a world where the Circa 68 is basically, it's my umbrella to record and create these little pop songs with whoever I want to play with. So I do a lot of stuff, just sending tracks back and forth with all my friends, and they'll put guitar on this and send it back, and put keyboard on this and send it back. So super fun project, and just like really power pop, like Fountains of Wayne, like Weezer.
Oh wow! See, we agree. We are this is why I have a man crush on you. Fountains of Wayne, awesome energy. This is what I want. This is what you give me. I thank you for all the years you have uplifted me and so many others, and the energy you provide, and your stage presence is awesome. And I love the Badlees, and I thank you for doing this. And I'm going to be that jerk who emails you before the show, and I want special treatment front row.
Done.
All right. Thanks, Pete Palladino. Please rock on, brother.
You're the best. Thanks,
Curiosity. What are you so curious about? Everything, Mr. Curiosity.